most welcome to Historiespanarna, History Reconnaissance. And this time we take you back to 1969 and combat pararescue in the Vietnam War. A great story of the helo-borne rescue units saving downed airmen with Sikorsky helicopters, the so-called Jolly Green Giants, and the PJs, the pararescue-men. Their mission in the Vietnam War was to ride into a combat zone aboard a slow, vulnerable helicopter and descend into jungles, swamps, mountains and forests on a cable and a winch. On the ground, they stabilized and helped hoist the injured to safety, often under fire. PJs in Vietnam were all volunteers, and they gathered more decorations per man than any other US Air Force group in that conflict. The story that follows shows these men in action, and we get the account of one such rescue operation directly from Lieutenant James DeVoss, whose life was saved by these men. And please, like, share and subscribe, it means a lot to us.
It all started as a typical mission. We had an 0800 takeoff and I was flying as flight lead, leading the foreship. We were on several targets that day. First of all, we interdicted some roads, that is, blasted craters in them so as to halt the flow of supplies down the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Then we went after a suspected truck park. You see, they hide the trucks under the trees during the day so you can't see them from the air. But our FAC, forward air controller, he figured he knew where they were, so he marked the area with a smoke rocket. We were working over that target when the guns came up.
Dateline, Southeast Asia. Authorities reported the loss of one aircraft from ground fire. The pilot was rescued by helicopter. In that one line, there's a story. This is a story about that story. About that special breed of men who go into combat that others may live.
Lieutenant Moore, I'll give the weather.
Gentlemen, good morning. The weather this morning in Area A is 4,000 scattered.
There's a lot they have to know about their job.
In Area B,
strike missions,
broken,
weather,
7,000 feet
intelligence.
in the area.
They wear King Arthurs, carry crewmen known as PJs. They fly Super Jollies or Buffs. They're watched over by Sandys and Spads, nursed by a ship called King. They'll follow a voice into the valleys of hell to pick him up alive. They call them the Jolly Green Giants. An aircraft may cost several $1 million, but it's still the expendable part of the man-machine team. The longer a pilot is down in the jungle, the less chance there is of getting him out alive. When the call comes in, recovery operations must start now, within seconds. Minutes would be too long.
Sergeant Pastor, what is the weight and balance today? Who's number one PJ there?
We haven't flipped yet, sir. You got the coin in?
Yeah.
Heads.
You got it.
Sorry about that. Number one PJs.
That's dedication. You have to be dedicated to consider the winner of a coin toss the low man, the first one down the cable into enemy-infested jungle. There's a man for every job. No more, no less. Not many, but every man has his place. The pilot, who gets them in and out of the hot spots, keeps the ship in hover while they make the pickup. The co-pilot, who maintains constant radio contact to get the word when to move in and out, where to hold and when. The flight engineer, who operates the hoist to let the penetrator down, brings up the survivors, mans a gun, commands the aircraft during the pickup. The PJs, pararescue-men, both manning guns, both ready to risk their lives on the ground to pick up a disabled pilot, both trained in surgery to make emergency repairs until they can get the survivor back to a hospital. fly in pairs, the high bird and the low bird, to a forward base. They have to be in reach of trouble when trouble comes. But the Jolly Greens aren't alone in this mission. There's a team behind them, above them, around them. There's King, air control for all search and rescue, or SAR as they call it. They fly in the area where the strike missions are scheduled. They're a combination watchdog and mother hen. They look and listen for a pilot in trouble. They bring in help when it's needed. They locate the trouble spot, guide and coordinate the recovery team. That's what it's all about, getting a downed pilot out of the jungle before the enemy gets to him. At another base, the Sandies, the slow movers, wait for the call that will bring them into action, to fly protective cover for the Jolly Greens, to clear the pickup area of enemy ground fire. Behind this airborne team are the ground control centers, Jack and Queen, strategically located so one of them will always be in contact with the action. Back at the command post, the Prime Rescue Control and Reporting Center. Here, all the details of every SAR effort are received and recorded as they occur. Command decisions are made, orders sent out to put all available men and equipment to the best possible use. When a man goes down, everything comes to a stop until they get him out.
We got shot at on every mission. They say it's the ones you don't see that get you, and it did me. There was a lot of firing, but it really didn't bother me. You get so wrapped up in what you're doing, plus you believe so much in what you're doing. Sure, you're busy. You're busy too, but still, you see that red stuff coming up at you, and it gets your attention real quick. You know what it can do to you, but it just doesn't bother you. It just makes you want to hit your target that much more.
Waiting is the hardest part of all. Sometimes the waiting lasts for days, but no one minds. It means our pilots are getting through, coming back. Then there's always that one time, the reason for their being here.
I never actually saw where they were firing from. I could never pinpoint their position. But I went in and made one drop where I figured they were, and then my number 4 man went in. As I pulled off, I was in a position to observe his roll in, so I rolled in behind him to cover him down the chute. He made his drop, and then I hosed off a few rounds of 20 millimeter to keep the enemy heads down as he pulled off. Then as I was pulling off, I didn't see or feel anything. And I was on the radio telling the guys to rejoin so we could go back to our post-strike tanker and get some gas so we could go home. When all of a sudden, the nose of the airplane just started weaving around real funny-like, and I thought, this can't be happening to me. But it was.
That's when things begin to happen.
Okay, Jim, get it out of burner now. Get it out of burner. I'm out of burner. Sue, this is Tiger. Do you have him in sight? Roger, I've got him in sight. Okay, babe, you got it. Roger.
Call sign, position. Is the disabled aircraft still in the air? Basic information to get the mission started.
Roger, 7-1. Could you give us vectors for channel 7 to start off with? Stand by. We get vectors for 7-1 for channel 7. Stand by. Roger. Hold down, Jim. Holding down, leaders, holding down.
The position is plotted.
Oh, let's make sure we lock it now.
King leads to go where the action is.
Roger, we're rolling out 218 this time. This is Ethan, 218, is a good heading, range 97 miles. 97 miles, heading to 218.
I still had the nose above the horizon, so I locked in the slab and lit the afterburner, and she started climbing. I leveled off around 10,000, and everything seemed reasonably stable, so I nosed her around towards the border in friendly territory. Everything was fine for a while, but then I noticed she was slowing down, rapidly approaching a stall speed. I had to get more speed out of her, so I reached down and punched off all the external stores, the empty wing tanks and things like that. And I don't know what happened, but when that stuff left, the nose just flopped right on over, and she started down. After she stabilized out, I reached down and shook the stick one more time in a last-ditch effort, but nothing happened, so I figured I must have been hitting the hydraulic system and lost all my fluid. Anyway, while she was going down, the guys above me were screaming, "Get out, get out!" So I guess it must have looked pretty bad. I know it sure felt bad inside that cockpit, but I couldn't have gotten out then if I wanted to. when she did nose over, I took a lot of negative G and found myself floating up against the canopy. So even if I could have initiated the ejection sequence, all I would have done is compress my spine and killed myself right then. So I had to stick with her. But when she did stabilize out, I tried to slow her down by getting everything out that I could, dropping the gear, putting out the speed brakes, anything. And once I did that, I reached down and hit the handles and squeezed the triggers, and after that, the sequence was standard. I heard the big rush of wind as the canopy separated, and then I felt a kick in the bottom, and up I went.
Okay, the guy is... How close to the UTN, how close to the gear? He's at least 20 miles from the border. Okay.
When I went out, I felt some flailing, and when I saw that open chute, I was really happy. The first thing I thought about was the landing, a parachute landing fall. So I reached down and attempted to deploy my seat kit containing my life raft and all that stuff, but I just didn't have the strength in my right arm to pull the handle. So I figured the next best thing would be to get in position for the fall with the hands on the risers and my legs together and my knees slightly bent. I thought I'd got into this position, but when I checked, I looked up and my right arm was on the riser, but I couldn't find my left. So I reached over and, well, I guess my left arm was wrapped somewhere behind my back because I hit myself right in the armpit. I had perspired a lot in the target area because we never used cockpit pressurization. So when I felt the moisture, all I could think was, you dummy, you left your arm in the cockpit. Then I looked down at my feet and they were just dangling. So I thought the only thing left is to put my good right arm in front of my face in preparation for a tree landing. And that's the last I remember until I was on the ground.
When a pilot is down, everything comes to a stop until they get him out. Anything that flies, that's in the area, is on call by King. SAM and flak spots are plotted. Safe routes and holding areas are marked, relayed to the Sandies and Jolly Greens.
Go ahead, this is King Fish 2. All right, 2, could you give me the elevation of the area and the temperature down the valley, please, sir? I don't have the temperature, but the elevation is going to be around 2,500 feet, something like that. All right, I understand, 2,500. Thank you very much. Houston, Sandy 1 and 2, request vectors. Sandy 1 and 2, begin fog mode 3, 1. I got a flight up there. Jolly Green 7-1, is the man come up deeper voice yet? Negative. I understand.
When I came to on the ground, the first thing I heard was my wingmen flying overhead. I listened for other noises for a while and then got out my survival radio and started talking to my number 2 man. Actually, all my wingmen stayed with me practically the whole time I was on the ground. They did have to make a run back to a tanker for gas, but they even staggered that so that I wasn't alone very long. My number 2 man even came down and made some low passes and shot some film in case they couldn't get me out that day. Then he told me he was scared. He told me I'd landed in a valley between 2 ridges and that about 1.5 miles away there was a village. That means a road, and that's where Charlie is.
Roger, let's let Sandy's come in here and take a look, please. Roger.
The Sandies come in for a quick look at the pickup area. The Jolly Greens hold back and orbit in a safe area. The Sandies drag the area to draw Charlie's fire, spot his guns, hose down anything that looks hostile. Charlie has a habit of hiding when he knows a pilot is down. He holds back until the chopper is in hover, the cable down. Then he opens up.
You have me in the sight, choppers. How'd you have insight? Okay, the parachute is directly off my left wing. I'm circling very tightly around it. Jolly Green 7-1, as you say, Kingfish 1 is on. That's affirmed. He said he needs a fast pickup. He's hurt bad, over. Roger, understand.
This is what it's all about. This is what they've trained for. Months, years, made dry runs, gone through proficiency evaluations, honed the edges sharp so they could cut the mustard when the chips were down.
I was unconscious on and off. I thought my left arm was missing and my legs just wouldn't do what I wanted them to. Then, when I hit, I landed on this bamboo and was sort of impaled on the young shoot. But it wasn't too bad because my head was elevated a little bit and so were my feet. So I think this helped me keep conscious. So I just laid right there. As I laid there, I just listened for voices, truck engines, things like this. Then I got out my radio and started talking to my number 2 man. Then another aircraft came in the area and an A1E driver started talking to me on the radio, asking me personal authenticator questions. You see, when a pilot's captured, Charlie will sometimes use his radio to draw in the rescue forces and shoot them down. So they have these questions that only you can know the answer to. Well, I gave him all the answers, plus some of the questions, my name, rank, serial number, anything I could think of. And he came back sort of chuckling and said, "Don't sweat it, babes, we're going to get you out." And that really gave me a good boost, just to hear that, to know that you're not alone out there.
First one, this is Firefly. We have you located. We have you located. The helicopter is on the way in. Charlie Green 7-1, Connor. Guard. Press that one. Right, you hovering over the survivor now?
Negative, we're coming in, letting down. We're coming in now.
Okay. Let me know when the PJs are ready. Kingfish 1, this is Firefly 4-2. We have your parachute in sight. We have you in sight. The helicopter is close by.
Kingfish 1, what's your position to your chute?
Kingfish is in his chute. He says he's got both legs broken, so he hasn't moved around any.
Roger.
We got you. We're coming in over you.
You're over him now, Jack.
Okay, you're right over him, he says.
PJ's going out the door now, Jack.
Roger. Hey, Firefly, Sandy Creek's entering here at your 12 o'clock. Roger, babes.
Turn your beacon off, turn your beacon off, turn your beacon off. PJ's on the ground, going to the survivor.
Roger.
It's funny, but I really don't remember much pain on the ground or anywhere. The only bad thing was that when I went out, my visor shattered and I cut up my face. Then when I hit, I landed either on or near an anthill, and those little rascals got in every cut, plus in my nose and my mouth and my eyes and just everywhere. But that's the only real discomfort I had. Well, except when the chopper came, because I was still in my chute and I was still impaled on that bamboo. Then the downwash of the chopper caught my chute and started to drag me. I'm sort of embarrassed to talk about it now, but I really let out a yell. I just couldn't help myself. They told me later that that was why it took them 15 minutes from the time they got there till the time they got me out. They had to back off and lower one PJ, and then he had to hack his way into me and get me ready for a pickup. Then they had to come back in and lower another PJ with a litter. Then the two of them had to pick me up off the bamboo and put me in the litter, and then they had to make the pickup. But I must have passed out because I don't remember that at all. The one thing I do remember, though, is that big smiling face coming at me with that M16 rifle. I just knew it had to be one of ours. From there on, I just dropped my radio and said, "Get me out of here."
6.4. 36.4. Are you ready, PJ?
Okay, can you come over and get us now? Can you come and get us now? I'll try to put a smoke in.
Pop your smoke, PJ.
Over to survivor now.
Tally.
Roger.
Okay. Kingfish 3 is a bingo and Lakers stay for number 5. Roger. Tell me where the square north is again. Roger. Nice job. There they go, baby. All right. So fantastic. I can't believe it.
On board the chopper, I do remember quite a bit about what they were doing and saying to me and all. They did tell me that it would be a 1-hour flight from where they picked me up to where we'd be putting down. But I don't remember it being that long. At least it didn't seem that long to me. Again, I don't remember feeling very much pain, but it must have been there. The only thing I can think of is that the nerves were damaged or I was in shock. But I do remember looking around and seeing them all smiling and my asking for cold water when they tried to give me warm, stale water out of a canteen. But beyond that, not really too much other stuff. My deepest regret is that I didn't personally thank those fellows right there on board the chopper. I don't know, I was just so happy. I'm sure they could see it on my face. It's just so great to know that you're not alone when you're up there flying. To know that if a pilot does go down, everything literally comes to a halt until they get him out. Then, too, I know that getting him out must be a deep satisfaction to them. I'm out of the Air Force now, back in school. I'm fine, too. Except, well, I can't quite straighten out my left arm all the way. It was broken in 7 places, and I dislocated both my knees, causing me to have to wear braces on them for a short while. But recently, I did get rid of the left brace, and so even though I will have to wear the right brace for the rest of my life, I think it's a pretty small price to pay, considering where I could be now. I attribute my good condition to the great care they took of me. 12 hours after I was picked up, I had been thoroughly checked over at one hospital and was on my way to another in the Philippines. The very next morning, I was in surgery. Then, when I'd recovered sufficiently from that, they sent me to a special orthopedic hospital at Wright-Patterson for all kinds of physical therapy. They gave me a 90% disability, but you would know it to look at me now. I'm out on temporary retirement until my condition clears up as best it can. I go back in for reevaluation every 18 months. I had a little pipe dream about staying in the Air Force or even going with an airline, but that's out now. I had a lot of time to really think about what I wanted to do for a living, and I decided my best bet was to take advantage of the vets benefits under the GI Bill and go back to school and get my master's in business administration.
They don't get them all. Nobody can bat 1,000, but they've racked up a pretty good score. Some 1,000 air crew members are alive today because of rescue and recovery in Southeast Asia. It's a simple philosophy. When a man is downed, he isn't just a statistic. He's a fellow American with a family at home, with hopes and dreams, and a potential that can't be measured. He's a man in trouble. He needs help fast. One air rescue pilot summed it up for all air rescue men when he said, "There's nothing in the world like the feeling you get when you've saved someone's life, when you've had a part in bringing that help that others may live."
That's all, folks. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.